Hello, friends. Welcome back to the second episode of Clickbait. This is a weekly podcast where we take complicated internet information that you have most likely avoided and we compress it down so that it's easily digestible. There's no fancy internet speak, no complicated platform jargon, just straight talk. My name is Sean Szeps. I am a writer slash podcaster slash head of social and strategy right here at True Sydney. We are a storytelling agency and we create fabulous content on social and digital media for big brands. What did you do this morning when you woke up? I'm not trying to pry. I'm just honestly interested. And the reason I'm interested is because I read a study that said that out of 91 different countries, Australia ranked 83rd. Very, very, very close to the bottom. The source is Sleep Cycle, and they gave Aussies a 57%. And that's based off their mood right when they wake up in the morning. And it got me thinking, as someone who works in social and digital media, is it the fault of our phone? Are we sleeping with our phone? And because we're sleeping next to our phone, it's the first thing we grab when we wake up in the morning. And because it's the first thing we grab when we wake up in the morning, we are starting our day diving into social platforms. And because we're probably not following a bunch of things that make us feel good or that we're genuinely learning from, we're not in the best mood comparatively to other countries. So my challenge today, as kind of building this show and getting ready to present information to you, was, what's the purpose? How can I make sure that you guys are feeling just a little bit better than you felt before you started listening to my amazingly annoying American accent? So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the fact that we're learning something new today, okay? And that has to make us feel good. So let's dive in to the week in review. The first topic is the fact that Instagram has launched a very new feature called Threads. So have you guys ever used that close friends feature that Instagram has? If you have, and you have all of your top friends kind of highlighted when you dive into the messaging portion of the app each day, then you'll be really excited about Threads. It's basically an app that is just for all your close friends. So Instagram has this new data, and it says that 85% of people who message on the platform only talk to 3 people, about 3 people. Isn't that interesting? So they're not actually getting a ton of consumers engaging in message conversations with new friends and followers. So it makes total sense that they're jumping into this app. My marketing cap goes on, and I ask myself, how are brands going to be able to play here? Is it going to be appropriate? Or are they going to ruin and kill the messaging platform like we have done with so many messaging platforms in the past, right? You fall in love with Facebook Messenger because it's an opportunity to connect with your friends via an app, and then all of a sudden the marketing comes in. So if brands are thinking about this space, right, you always want to get ahead of the curve. My challenge to you is, how can you be authentic? How can you seamlessly integrate yourself into this conversation without just coming across like a brand who's trying to sell you a product? Think about it. The second topic is Google confirming new sets of data and security options. So this is exciting, a little nerdy for a second. So Google has confirmed that they are actually attempting to assist users in gaining better control and protection over their data. So there's a bunch of exciting updates. The first is you can go incognito when you're on Google Maps. So it's less personalized to you, less creepy. You can just hide your location history altogether, which is exciting. They've also added a new audio delete timer. And you can set it to daily, weekly, monthly. And that is not just on Google search, that's also YouTube search. So if you are a little concerned, I know some of you guys out there, you know, you have some sketchy history. Don't worry, this is finally gone. They'll also be adding an option for you to delete your voice history. So that should be exciting for some people who ask a lot of questions maybe to Siri or Google search. They're implementing a new password checkup tool. This is really exciting, especially for consumers who might use the same password every single time they log into a website. And I'm using this voice because I'm actually talking to myself. I'm shunning myself for doing this. So this new implemented password checkup tool should totally help people like me. And finally, they're letting you know if your password has been compromised. So for me personally, living and making a living on the social and digital space, I'm just hoping other platforms are listening. Just listen to Google, okay? They're doing a pretty damn good job of caring about consumers' privacy. Okay, moving on to the next subject. Social media has outspent magazine and newspapers for the very first time. From a consumer perspective, you're probably like, yeah, duh. Social media is so much more impressive and exciting. But from a brand perspective, you're probably asking yourself, should I just put all my money into the social space? This trend seems to be growing, right? And my professional opinion is like, don't count out newspaper and magazines, okay? We're gonna actually have this conversation a little bit later in our main segment, so I don't wanna get too much into my opinion, but don't count out magazines and newspapers just yet. Moving on, fourth topic is that Apple has leaked its own Apple Watch sleep app. There's not really a lot more to the news other than the fact that this was a mistake. Some users caught the reference to this sleep app, and then that screenshot was taken down right away. The feature was seen to allow users to set up a wake-up time as well as a bedtime within the app. And this is super convenient, especially for Apple Watch users. It's supposed to be all about your movement, right? Apple Watch has really leaned into fitness. And so a lot of branded opportunities around that fitness exercise space have popped up in our industry. But it makes sense, right, that they would want to think about sleep tracking studies. When I think about the app, I would love to kind of understand my circadian rhythm and when's the best time for me to wake up. So if you're an Apple Watch user, you are more than likely going to be getting a new sleep app in the coming months. And our last topic, TikTok. Have you heard of it? If not, you're probably above the age of 20. TikTok is the talk of the town, and it is coming to Oz in a very big way. So we have a couple influencers in our network who have let us know that they've seen some campaign briefs pop up on Instagram. Campaign briefs on influencer platforms. The only thing I want you to be weary of if you're an influencer and you're listening to this is that the popular video platform has been using content of consumers in their marketing material without anyone's permission and without compensation. Now, if you read the fine print, let's be honest, none of you read the fine print, then you gotta know that that is allowed, unfortunately. Once you upload the content to the platform, they own the rights to that. But it didn't work out for Vine, so I'm not 100% sure if it's going to work out for TikTok. That being said, this is a platform we all need to be thinking about. If you are a brand and you are listening to this podcast right now, you reach out to your agency. And if you don't have an agency, you reach out to me and ask me what you should be doing on the platform. How can you connect with the consumers? How can you connect with this young generation that is using the platform? And if TikTok follows a path of Snapchat or Instagram, we know that it starts with a young generation and then it just balloons and all the other generations pile on in. My belief, get onto a platform when it first comes out and is gaining popularity and figure it out. Fail often, fail fast. Give it a try. Understand how your brand connects and resonates with the consumers on the platform. And then once you've done that, by the time it does blow up, you have it figured out. I think it's time for us to do a deep dive, shall we? Okay, I am so excited to have today's guest, Adam Bub. I feel so like
glad to be here too. Thank you.
We've been like moving past each other in this industry for a couple years now. I feel like I've run past you 100 times. And we've been in one professional meeting together.
We have, and it's actually been here in the True Sydney offices.
Yes.
But you have been roaming around the Mamma Mia offices, recording podcasts and doing amazing things, video shoots for Big W. And we've just loved having you. You amazing talent and really great writer.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So, Adam Bub is the editor of partnership and content at Mamma Mia. You have been in this industry, like the journalist space, for 12 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I was, when I was at uni, I went to University of Sydney. I did Bachelor of Arts Honours in English. And during that time, I was writing movie reviews. That was the beginning of my career for Film Inc. magazine. And that was just trying to get a foot in the door and doing the whole, I'll write for free, I'll do what I do, I'll do what I love. And I had like I wrote stuff on the net and stuff. But
then you spent about 6 years. You were at 9, travel editor, entertainment writing, producing, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's right. I worked on the Getaway website, the TV Week website, and The Fix, which became 9 Celebrity. So I was the deputy entertainment editor there.
Amazing.
Interviewed thousands of celebrities. Not like I'm not name dropping. There's no name dropping.
Do it if you've got it.
It's just it was part of everyday life while you're working in the churn and burn of digital. Yeah,
of course. So today for our deep dive, we are talking about an area that I think you're perfect for a couple reasons. So we're going to be speaking about how social media, for the very first time, has trumped spend of magazine and newspapers. And what's intriguing about your area of specialties outside of lifestyle, food, social media, LGBTIQA plus issues, you're an influencer yourself. So you have more than 20,000 followers on Instagram. So that is what you do outside of work. And then while you're at work, you are actually working with easily the biggest brands in Australia and developing content for them. So to have a conversation about social media and the fact that it's dominating your traditional bread and butter that you had been focused on 12 years ago as the digital world is coming up, and that is newspaper and magazine.
Well, it's so interesting because I worked for a community newspaper when I first started, and unfortunately that community newspaper is not around anymore.
Yeah.
And that's sort of one of those casualties of time, that community newspapers are often like that first thing to go because they're not seen as the big money makers. So that was where I started, and it's where a lot of journalists get their grounding, whether it's in regional or whether you're working in a city kind of community paper or an area that you live in. And that gave me a really great grounding. That gave me the entry into Nine, which obviously all the Nine stuff, I mean, I've been digital for a long time. So it's moving into Mamma Mia, which is actually a brand that is a digital native brand that formed online with Mia Friedman, starting it in a room at home and turning it into the business that it is now, which is the biggest women's podcast network in the world. 65 million plus lifetime downloads of our podcasts. But then you have your written posts, and then you have your social, and then you've got video and Facebook groups, and there's so many different strands that digital has taken things into now. Yeah, I mean, to be a print brand today, you need to be adopting those kinds of practices. You need to move where your audience is.
So I'm guessing when you hear the fact that social media is now third and has trumped newspaper and magazine, you're not shocked at all.
I'm not shocked, no.
Are you upset?
I mean, it's funny because I am a consumer of all kinds of media, and maybe it's being in the media world that I love that. Yeah. And on the weekends, there's nothing I love more than to pick up a newspaper and sit there with my crossword and get ink on my arm and take that crossword with me as
tactile experience.
It's like that crossword for me is like a comfort toy that I take with me the whole weekend and sometimes early the week. So there's something about that. I think the best newspaper and print brands are ones that are moving and innovative and can move quickly. And I think a lot of digital brands can do it a lot faster because they're not as trapped in kind of a structure that they or don't have as many sign-offs. I don't know. I mean, there are print brands doing a lot of amazing things.
Definitely.
There's The Guardian, New York Times. They have lots of interesting subscription models that really work for their audiences. So if you're a print brand, then it's more like you need to have a really great digital offering to complement what that print brand is. I would hope that print never dies because it works it should work in tandem with what's going on online.
I've been thinking a lot about that because I was going to ask you, do you imagine, as someone who makes a living now on the digital and social space, that print will die? And as you're talking, I'm thinking what we're noticing with every generation below ours is a fondness for nostalgia at some point in their life. And it's usually like, 3 decades in, you're 30 years old, you look back at what you grew up with and it is exciting. Brands are tapping into that. Yeah. And so my hope is we get a huge resurgence of people in 10 years, maybe even less, who say, I'm going to put my phone down for a large chunk of time.
There's a lot of this phone down movement. Yeah. I mean, obviously in my world, I don't want people to put their phones down all the time because, I mean, that's where I work. I want people to consume really great content. But I suppose the way I view it is that you should be mindfully consuming great content. Yeah. Not wasting time on anything that is not really serving you or making your life better. Actually, a core purpose at Mamma Mia we have is making the world a better place for women and girls. And that's like a filter that we apply when we're producing content, whether it's on a podcast or whether it's a branded written post, and I'm working with a client to go, how does this fit within where we're going, you know, and do the right thing.
You bring up an interesting point, because at the beginning of the show, I talked about the fact that Aussies are not so happy at the beginning of their day. When this study ranked 91 countries, and Aussies were quite low. And one of the rationales, one of the kind of hypotheses is that we are waking up, we're grabbing our phone, and we're diving into content that's not always meaningful. If you're listening to this show and you're a brand, which is what you and I do every day, all day, what type of content can you create as a brand that provides meaning?
I mean, I always look at it through a few different lenses of like, is this helpful? Is this entertaining? Are you learning something new? I mean, no one wants to read an article that's just saying like, oh, you want to be healthy? Drink more water. You know, like it's like, oh, thanks for that. No one's telling me that anywhere else.
Never heard it.
Never heard that. It doesn't mean you have to have completely new information to always share, but it's how you do it, and it's who you're utilizing for that. If you've got experts, or being entertaining with it. If you've got humor as one of the tools in your arsenal, then you need to use it, because that grabs people's attention a lot more than kind of hearing something in a very flat sort of way. That comes across in content. Tone of voice is so important.
It's funny. We can kind of tie three things together, because you say the word content, and for some listeners that word means nothing, right? For us in the industry, that can mean everything. But if we know that social media is dominating and that news and magazines are dropping, do you imagine, especially for brands, which is kind of what you do every single day, when we look into the future, like what content is going to be resonating most? Do you have like an insight or a thought? Like if I'm a brand, I only have a specific amount of money and I want to create content, just like you said, that resonates, that has a tone of voice that's authentic but connects with people. Where should I be thinking about being?
That's a huge question. I mean, the fragmentation of media is the most it's ever been.
Yep.
The options that we have for consumption are, beyond what any of us could have imagined even 10 or 15 years ago. I mean, if you'd said to us that Instagram, hey, there's going to be this thing where you're going to be sharing photos of your breakfast every day, or like, not that anyone does that, but some people, a food blogger will do that, and you're going to make money out of it, and this is going to be your job. People will be like, that's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
That sounds like a dream job. Like, I want to share my breakfast every day. So I just think you need to be going where it's always going to be content first. The medium will come second. The medium will be wherever the best content is made for those particular audiences. So, for example, if you've got Facebook, you have Instagram, you've got Snapchat, you have TikTok as well, which is a huge new one for Gen Z. It's going off for young people, and anyone over 30 is sitting there going like, what is this thing? And it's had 1 billion downloads, and you're just going, okay, well, how do you market to people there? Yeah. But the whole point of it is that it's content first. It's coming from the users. The audience can have such a role in dictating the content. And that flows through to a digital network like Mamma Mia, where our audience can absolutely have an impact on our content. Yeah. We have a really intimate, very engaged audience, and we know what they want to, like, they are vocal, and they talk to us, they send us emails, we talk to them, we've got Facebook groups, we have fostered that culture of engagement over the years so that people know that they can help us with kind of directing what they want to hear about. And then obviously you look at data and you go, oh, well, the clicks are not going here. People are not caring about this, but they are caring about this.
When I first heard this piece of news, the first thought that came to my mind was data. Social platforms, social marketing, brands who are getting into that space for the first time are often blown away by two things. One, the access of information, but then two, you've kind of tapped into at Mamma Mia, which is we can get feedback from consumers. We know what they like, and therefore we can resurface content that's similar, or if they're not liking something, we don't need to revisit that topic again. And so for brands, it's a really exciting opportunity, which is to create content that's fueled by consumers. Whereas with television and with newspaper, you're leaning into quite archaic models, right? You're sending someone a piece of paper and asking them to jot down like how often they were watching and what they were watching. Whereas with social, it's pretty on the nose, right? Do you think that data has something to do with the fact that social is succeeding?
Absolutely. The measurability of a social campaign. I mean, you can look at everything from click through to the dwell time to if you're doing shoppable content, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram. In articles as well too, you can do shoppable content in some places. So it's one of those things where you can get an immediate transaction if you want, if that's what you're after. If you're, I mean, you can either be doing a campaign that's specifically about driving transactions, or one that's about brand building and going, we want people to love our brand. So we're not necessarily after the transaction now, but we want when they are thinking of buying a car, when they are thinking of taking out a home loan, when they are thinking of, someone's in the shops to buy, it could even be a smaller thing, that they're thinking of my brand.
Yeah.
So, but but as far as measure, that's always going to be harder to measure, because that's a long play. And as you'd know, like when you're marketing a brand, like you put out a marketing strategy and go, look, obviously we want to drive sales. There's a particular time of year. Maybe it's Christmas, and maybe it's summer. It's ice cream, and that's the time for ice cream.
We're going to use the ice cream brand example because it's interesting and it reminds me.
I'm like, it's summer and I'm thinking ice cream and I'm wearing a summer shirt.
Exactly.
So.
Who doesn't want ice cream? So we have an ice cream brand. They've come to the two of us. They're sitting at this table and they say, social media is dominating, newspaper and magazines dropping, TV's dropping. Should I only put all of my money into social media? What's your answer to them?
I mean, I can't. I would say that it's a 360-degree picture.
Good
You'd
answer.
be wanting to put your marketing. No one wants to put everything in one basket, do they?
No.
And I think you'd probably advise your clients like, hey, like you need to have a split, because you're not going to get all the same people in one place. Like we are long beyond that in our kind of world we're in now. You might be getting me on Instagram because I love Instagram.
Yeah.
My partner's in LinkedIn.
Yeah,
that's
true.
That's my partner's world, and wouldn't be checking things as much elsewhere. And you might have people who are across all platforms, but there's one where I believe that you are that primary person there. Okay, so I'm really an Instagram native there, but you'll find that there's a younger person who's on TikTok who's got nothing, they can't relate to me at all. But however, a product can be marketed to both of us, but it needs to be done really differently.
Well, authenticity, I think, is the key there. We're talking about a physical product with ice cream, right? A product that most people consume outdoors, that most people consume with family and friends at the end of the day or as a dessert, right? And so oftentimes when brands come to us and we're looking at a 360 marketing plan because we know there's power there, it's what are the touch points? Social media is a huge part of everyone's day-to-day lives. So of course, there are going to be multiple touch points where we have to engage with them. But we also know they have to get to work. So they're going to be in their car. And at the end of the day, they might be thinking about dessert. So do we want to hit them with radio? In this country, absolutely. And if you're driving, then you might want to consider out-of-home ads. And so for ice cream, which triggers you because you see it and you want to try it and it looks so delicious, there are, of course, multiple mediums. I imagine that as social dominates our lives more and more and more, that number is going to continue to climb. But there will be a time where we start to see what we're seeing now, which is people saying, you know what, I'm going to put my phone down. And then we're forced to look outside into the real world, and that's where other advertising can win.
But I think that's where you can have a lot of compelling online content that isn't just social media. So I think that people, like, as much as this conversation is about social media, ad spend eclipsing print and magazines, there's always a lot of avenues online that are not, you may not be directed to you on social. It's about, as any brand, whether it's Mamma Mia or whether it's New York Times or whether it's any outlet, needs to be kind of building a loyal audience that makes you want to go back to a homepage or to go to an app like Apple News, for example, which is aggregating different outlets' content. I'm going to go to Apple News because I can get Mamma Mia, I can get 9, I can get News, I can get a bunch of different, all the competitors. You get them all together, you get whatever the highlights are there. And maybe that's how you see things. Or maybe you are going, no, I really like the way that they tackle the world at this site and this is my area I'm going to go into. So I just think, there are a lot of ways beyond social media. I think brands have to look beyond just social media.
Totally.
And search is always part of that picture as well.
I was going to say search, if you're a brand in this modern digital era, usually digital and social are connected inherently. And if you're not thinking about that first touch point, which is often for brand search, right? Consumers are going in, and it's not just written search, it's also voice activated, asking their phone questions. And yes, from there you can potentially be driven to social, but oftentimes you're driven from that search to the Mamma Mia website and you find a great article on a subject. And then maybe you're inspired by a social post within that article, so it's all connected. But you're right, to just think about social, you're ignoring the fact that the number 2 that's ranked here in this study that we're talking about starts with television, but the second is traditional paid search. This is, the Googles of the world, this is where everyone is going to get answers.
And that is why everything has to be content first. Like when we're in this age where we have access to what an audience is thinking in real time right now, what they're searching, I think everything has to be content first. It's the people are telling you what they really want to hear or what they want to see. And then sometimes you're a thought leader. I mean, sometimes it isn't just about being reactive. And I worry that from what I've said in this conversation that some things sound like, oh, we just do it. Oh, yeah, we'll just give the people what they want. There's an element of that. But then, of course, there's the stuff where you get to be a thought leader.
Sure.
And then when you have tried something new and you have tried something different, and then that resonates, you go, oh, okay, we've created something that's well beyond just what, like it's that whole thing in going, okay, we've actually answered a concern that people had without them even knowing they had it.
I feel like one of the things we say at True is best practices are bullshit. And the only reason we say that is because clients come a lot and say, what can we do that's going to guarantee success? What can we do that's going to go viral? And we're forced to say what you just did, which is content first is brilliant, and I love that. That's going to be my big takeaway from this conversation is if brands are listening to this and they're trying to think, where should I spend my money? Thinking about medium first is probably not the way to go, but instead think about your content and the message that you have. But don't just practice and copy what everyone else has done for success. The reality is sometimes your gut, your instinct, your truth, your true story is what's going to resonate. And I think authenticity is powerful.
I mean, because it all comes down to storytelling. And I wrote this in my phone a few days ago. I wrote emotional entry point, and I don't know why, but it's this term that I keep on coming up with when I'm speaking with clients who maybe they may not have as much experience with digital content, and they want to kind of understand what it is that we do, what our specialty is, and our specialty is creating emotional entry points to go, right, we recognize you and what you're going through in this day, and we know that you're busy, and we know that you don't want to be talked to. You don't want a brand who's coming to you and saying, oh, we want to market to women. You want them to come and go, I want to market to like specific, there are very, very many types of women.
Yeah.
It's like this idea that women are a niche is ridiculous when they're half the population. So, and which means you're going to have so many different types and individuality. So, I just think storytelling is key. You want to find the right people to tell these stories, whether you're going with an influencer strategy on social media or whether you're going with a podcast strategy and you think, actually, our story we've got a story to tell here and we've got a really interesting way to do it and we've got a highly engaged group of listeners. So there are so many different ways to do it. Yeah. So it's really interesting. It's fascinating times because even in 5 years' time, we won't be able to say where print is sitting or where a lot of digital is sitting. And I certainly hope it all complements each other. I mean, I want to be able to be on my phone when I want to be with the newspaper when I want to be. The story is key.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to end on this positive note. We're going to have in writing that we're going to meet in 5 years and we're going to have the same conversation and see where the hell digital's at.
Oh my gosh, I'll look back on this and just go, Adam, you knew nothing.
Yeah. Exactly. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to a game, okay? We like to just have a little bit fun. This is the podcasting space. It doesn't need to be too serious.
What are you saying? I hate having fun.
Look at your shirt, you boring man. Ugh. So here's what we're going to do. I tried to think up something that was specific to what you and I have in common. Instagram is our priority platform. We both work with brands every single day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just give you branded hashtags, but I'm not going to tell you what brand it is. What I did was I did not give you hashtags that include the brand name in it because then it's not a difficult game. But I just want to know how good of a job. These are, by definition, And by definition, I mean I Googled this and I looked at many Australian websites. These are the, quote, most successful brand campaigns and the hashtag attached to it. Okay?
Okay.
Are you ready? You just tell me your first answer, and if you don't know, that's fine.
Okay.
The first hashtag is do us a flavor.
Do us a flavor. Do us a flavor. Do us a flavor. Is it... I feel like it sounds like a soft drink brand.
It's Lay's potato chips. Oh. So not all, these are the global campaigns, so maybe that didn't reach the Aussie shores as strong as it should have. But that one is one of the more famous hashtags globally that didn't have the brand in it at all, but they're able to own flavor, which is interesting, right? You can include words,
own a concept,
and then own a concept. What about Ice Bucket Challenge?
The Ice Bucket Challenge was ALS.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. So I think that's a really good example of a brand who wanted to raise money, get this message out. They obviously went viral, maybe for the wrong reasons, maybe for the right ones. I think that's up for a very different conversation.
That's interesting thinking of that even as a brand.
I know, right?
Because you often think, oh, it's charity. That's not a brand, but... Charity is
of course. Big business. They had a strategy. They had a document that said this is what we're going to do. And it was really linked on that hashtag. When people think Ice Bucket Challenge, I think most people like you are able to go, they think viral video first, Ice Bucket being dumped. Oh yeah, ALS. And so that's a good thing for that brand, but also just for the awareness of the actual issue. Okay, I'm going to jump to some more complicated ones. WTFF.
I'm losing yogurt like Pitim Yum or no.
Okay, it's what the French fry. So the brand is.
Okay, so it's Macca's.
Yeah, it's Macca's.
Okay,
that's a pretty darn. I feel like
I've got to say though, I should have gone down that route because it was it's really only like fast food brands are really quite good at harnessing this whole. Harnessing online language and harnessing a hashtag and going pushing it like WTFF. Why would I even say yogurt? Like why? You'd probably go with the bolder, youth-based sort of brand. So you're right that it would actually be.
What's really nice about Macca's, what's nice about
KFC
is a perfect example where no matter what they do, there's a tone thread, which for both brands is, but KFC more than Macca's is like. We are bold, we're in your face, we're honest, we're direct. We tell you exactly what we think. And because of that...
We're not apologizing. We know that, our food, isn't going to be here for your health reasons, but we are going to be here for a lot of other reasons. Or maybe they will for some things that they launch. Maybe some things they won't. So
I'm going to give you one more, okay? Hashtag share your ears.
Was that share with a C-H-E?
It was not. I wish it was.
Okay.
Share. Good question though. Good follow up. Please use it in a sentence.
So share your ears.
Share your ears.
Cher's new Spotify service. It'll be her own spin-off. Share your ears. I feel like it's like a Yui Boom or a Beats by Dre or that kind of thing.
So this was actually Disney, and it was show your Mickey Mouse ears. So what they were attempting to do last year was really own the authentic ear. Wow. I know. I thought I was going to trick you with that one, and I'm really happy that I did. I'm sorry.
That makes so much sense. Thank you for that. No,
well, thanks for playing along.
You've opened my eyes. I'm just going to be paying so much attention to brand to hashtags that are not even.
Yeah.
Like they get kicked off by the brand, but then they end up in creating a movement.
Well, I felt like someone like you would be able to look at those words. And the bigger conversation for us is you don't actually need your brand name to be there, to have it be associated with you. Your content first, that should be your vision. And if you have a hashtag that represents the overall message, then you're probably going to be able to have that linked with your brand, hopefully.
And your brand should hopefully be iconic enough for people to recognize, because you can't just it's like making fetch happen. Like you can't make fetch happen if it's not something that people are doing anyway.
Exactly.
So,
So before you go, I like to share at the end of the show my internet obsession with everybody. And so I was just wondering, what are you obsessed with this week?
What am I obsessed with? It's not so much an obsession. It's just more of an observation I made that I did an Instagram post that got really great response from people about, I would kind of call it the humble brag, because it's not
so good. Because
I hate a humble brag. I hate people who boast. I'm not really into that kind of look what I did kind of thing. But I felt really good about something that happened at work. I'd won an award, and I thought, I don't ever tell people about what I actually do at work. Like I see my Instagram world as being separate. That's where I do, fashion and lifestyle and, that kind of thing. And that's a different expression of self to what my professional self is there. Yep. And I thought, oh, well, what do you do? What happens when you have those moments when you want to celebrate a little victory in your work life? Like, is it okay to be posting about it, or does it look like you're conceited or up yourself if you're going, oh, hey, look what I did this amazing thing, I did it. How do you own your work in a way that is not like, that doesn't make people cringe and go, oh, this person's going on about their life again? No, I think there's some really, like, you kind of have to look to LinkedIn and go, that's where really, really great self-promoters are.
Absolutely. That's where they need to be.
Breathe in and take a bit of the guts that LinkedIn people have and go, yeah, I'm the best at this. I did this, but I'm never
owning it.
But you kind of have to own it. And I didn't really, the post I did was never by no means that I'm the best at this, because I wouldn't say anything that isn't true. I would just be like, oh, well, how do you do a humble brag? And I just sort of said, well, look, this is what I actually do in my work life. A lot of people don't know, because digital media jobs can be really like vague. Like, I think even explaining, my parents, if they were explaining people what I do, I don't know if they can fully. My dad says to me, every time I think of you, or he says in his South African accent, every time I think of you, I think of podcast. It's like, that's the only time I've ever heard of podcasts. And I'm like, okay, well.
That's a damn good accent.
So he would, I'm just like, well, I'm not sitting in the podcast studio every day. I am here today.
Yeah, there you go.
But
hope you're listening and watching, Dad.
But explaining how you work with brands and how you come up with a strategy and how you work with writers and all that sort of thing is not something that you could easily kind of encapsulate in what you do. So yeah, it was interesting. I just explained it and I just, what do you think about humble brag?
Here's what I think. We're going to connect all three of the segments today. You're going to write an article for Mamma Mia about the humble brag, but you're going to make it a hashtag, and then you're going to put it on your social media page, and then it's going to become a movement. That is what I think.
I don't know.
And then next week, that's going to be my internet obsession.
Okay, so how are you going to humble brag next week? Or when the show comes out, are you going to humble brag about this?
Yes, definitely. See, I mean, I have chosen to live my life on social media with as much authenticity as possible, and I am a bragger. Like, that's just a part of who I am. I'm very bold. I'm very like in your face, like, look what I did, and like, look how amazing my kids are. And my entire Instagram, if you guys have kids and you like that, then you should follow me, because that's all I do. And so I'm not gonna humble brag about this episode. I'm just gonna brag about it. I'm gonna be like, you should listen. You should listen. I fucking love it.
It's great.
I was a dancer and an actor my whole life, and so I learned very early on that you have to believe you're great and put that out into the world, and when you fail, own that too. And so I think a big part of success on social is not just the bragging and the humble brags, but also like owning and putting out into the world what hasn't worked. And so I feel like when you're able to overshare positively and negatively, that's actually when you connect with people.
Absolutely.
So my internet obsession is this app called InShot that I got. I was looking for an app on my phone that would allow me to edit video. I have no idea how to edit video at all.
I had a moment like that the other day, and iMovie was just not enough for me.
Just download InShot if you can. I mean, if you have any real experience, you're going to probably think this is garbage, but it has allowed me to very simply put a bunch of videos and pictures together and add music over it. And as a kind of newbie to the editing video space, it's just made me feel really confident and comfortable in how simple the process can be. And that has allowed me to pump more videos out into my Instagram. And so I'm really proud of that. I'm really into it. Okay, well, Adam, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful.
It was great to chat. So you can follow Adam on Instagram at Adam Bub, B-U-B, or on Twitter at the Adam Bub. And while you're at it, you're already there. Just give me a follow.
Give Sean a follow.
Come on, Sean Szeps,
S-E-A-N. He'll give you a humble brag shout out.
There you go.
Or maybe you won't.
That's our show, friends. We'll see you next week. And in the meantime, the show is a True Originals production. Clickbait is produced by Lily Brown, Olivia Sloan, and me. This week, our episode was shot and edited by Ramon Minchero. Brand identity was made by Tiffany Han. Music was mixed and designed by Olivia Sloan. Social media content was created and written by Tiffany Han and Taylor Barnes. And our fearless leader, Eric Stevens, oversees the entire show. And a special thank you to Adam Bub for being our guest. Bye.